Bethany Manktalow here. Welcome to our Millwall Fans Show with some new voices, but the same focus. Just everything Millwall. Enjoy!
Welcome to the 23-24 series of Millwall's No One Likes Us Talking, our Millwall Fans Show. I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Stan Godwin, Patricia Maslin and Jeff Burnige.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
So, a disappointing result against Leeds, but a much better result against Rotherham on Wednesday night, which saw Longman, Bradshaw and Fleming open their accounts for the season. Stan, I'll start with you. Discuss the weekend and Wednesday's game.
Well, last night, I'll start with last night because out of two, that's the better one. But no, I was well pleased. I've heard one or two people say, the opposition weren't that great and whatever. Well, that's fine, but we have no control over that. We play who we play, and they are either good or no good, and that's the way it is. Right, but I've seen us play teams like that before and struggle, and in some cases even lose. But last night there was never any danger of that. I think we was straight at it from the start of the game. I thought our movement was excellent, our passing was brilliant. We were moving the ball at pace. All the things I rattle on about, I saw that last night. And if we play like that every week, you won't hear me go on about the style of football, because that is the way we should be playing. None of this long ball rubbish and target men and 4-4-2 and all that crap. And as I say, and I thought last night, and I was particularly impressed with the players. Longman, because that's the first time I had a chance to really have a proper look at him. And no, I thought we did okay. I think Danny Mack's going to struggle to get in that team, if I'm perfectly honest.
But do you find, though, sometimes once Norton Cuffey's been worked out, he becomes a bit of a luxury?
Sorry, say that again?
Well, I found that in the first half, the left back in his pocket left back didn't know which way to turn. The second half, I don't know if they made a change or changed just to change things to try and nullify him. I just found in the second half he didn't really do any of it. I think they've found him out a little bit in the second half. Do you think he's a bit like that?
Could have been, or it could have well have been that Rowett decided to do it a different way. I don't know, but all I'm saying is that I think Danny Mack's going to have, whilst he's at Millwall, I don't think Danny Mack's going to be the first choice in that position. That's my view. But no, I thought it was all okay last night. I thought we played well. It's interesting now because we've lost the goalkeeper, haven't we? For 3 months apparently. He's out injured.
Does that mean we can go into the loan market, an emergency loan market, or because we've got Truman?
I don't know. I think you can only sign them now if they're actually out of contract. I think.
Right.
I think that's the case, but you see, I have to say this. Long went. Everybody wanted to get him out the door. I can remember somebody turning around saying we should be standing in the ground shouting out to Rowett, we want Bart, we want in front of the player that would have been in goal. That'd have looked good. Because he's now gone. And I don't know about this new goalkeeper we've just signed. We signed in, he's about 27. I don't know nothing about him. And to be honest, I'd forgotten all about him. And I thought, if old Bart gets injured, we could be in some difficulty now with goalkeepers. So people, when they start talking about we want this bloke out and we want that bloke out, it always goes back to the old saying, be careful what you wish for, because it can come back and kick you right between the legs. But anyway, that's my take on the Rotherham game.
Brilliant. Pat, over to you.
Yeah, I thought we played well last night. Some decent performances there, individuals. Obviously, Demore, definitely my man of the match. With Cuffey, I think he's a class above. I think he's an absolutely brilliant player. He takes people on. He runs that wing very nicely from the back. But I don't think anyone can complain at that. You know, we're never going to be able to buy him, I know, but he's going to be a quality player when he gets older. Yeah, you can say you can only beat what's in front of you, but what was in front of you was a non-league side there. But you can't take anything away. 3 goals is 3 goals after that performance from Sunday, which was embarrassing. You know, I can take a 3-0 defeat if I think my team's played well and they've battled. But there was none of that Sunday. You had the first 10 minutes, you thought, yeah, we're going to give them a game. And then it just went to pot, you know? As I say, I can take a defeat any time, but it's the performance you put in. Is it a stay of execution last night? We'll have to go to Saturday and see when we play a half-decent championship side. I don't know.
Where's the thought, though?
The teams we've played... Sorry?
There's a thought. We've played Leeds, who have obviously got... who are what they are. We played Rotherham, who are what they are. And more West Brom are more... where we are at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, you know, they're pretty much the same type of side. But, I mean, all the teams we've beaten this year are like being in the lower part of the division. I mean, we was like cock-a-hoop opening day. Thought, oh, great, Middlesbrough, we beat them, we're going to be good. But Middlesbrough didn't live up to much for the next couple of weeks, so perhaps that wasn't a bigger victory as we all thought. But, I mean, onwards and upwards, let's see what Saturday brings.
Indeed. Jeffrey, over to you.
Well, the Leeds game, I think most of us would have gone home, shall we say, a bit disappointed, and I'm understating that a little bit. We did seem to start the game okay. Was it 14, 15 minutes when they scored? We were a bit unfortunate to concede that goal because I think it's pretty obvious that there was a foul earlier on. You know, we lost the ball high up and got done on the break. And it does look as if we're a bit vulnerable on the breakaway because it's not the first time it's happened. So a bit unfortunate there. The game was then pretty much in the balance until the second goal. And the manager had decided that he would try to win the game or try to get back in the game at 1-0 down. He brought on the 2 youngsters, made a couple of other changes. Unfortunately, we gave the ball away high up again, got done on the break again, and it meant that the scoreline at that stage didn't look nice at all. One thing that was worrying me was I don't know how much of the old Bart we were going to get. And when I went to the game on Wednesday night, uppermost in my mind was, how's Bart going to do? Because he hasn't played much for the last year, well, hardly at all for the last year, and he's not getting any younger. I think the manager and the team had a stroke of luck. After the losing 3-0 at home to Leeds, the last thing we needed was a difficult away midweek game, you know, somewhere like West Brom away. Instead, we got a home game against a team that's clearly not up to scratch really for the Premier League, for the Championship. So we were able to get a nice, comfortable home win and restore confidence, and that's I think what happened. I was happy with Bart's performance. He didn't have a great deal to do, but I take Pat's point. I thought Denor had an extremely good game. That looked very promising.
Yeah.
But it was a day where nothing really much went wrong for us there. And everything now moves to Saturday with the West Brom away game, because either the Leeds game was either a bit of a blip, or Wednesday night was a bit of a blip. We'll find out over the next couple of games. I believe is it not 2 away games now? Is it not Plymouth away next week? No, it's Swansea at home and then
Swansea
Plymouth.
at home.
It's Swansea
then
at home and then Plymouth away, isn't it?
And then Hull.
So
yeah.
by that time we'll have played 10 games. It's usually after 10 games that you find out roughly how it's going. We're ahead of where we were last year. I understand the comments of the people on social media that feel that the football is not the most exhilarating. I get that. It's a defendable point of view, that. But as we speak, we're 11th in the league. We've got 10 games. We've got 10 points. We're ahead of half the division, including a lot of clubs that are bigger than us. I do think that there is a tendency for when people have stated their opinion about the situation, they will then bend the facts to bear out what they believe. And it doesn't look to me as if, if we lose this week, he's gone. If we win this week, we didn't have much to beat. I think there's some fairly short-term thinking on message boards from what I can gather. Well, I was happy with Wednesday. Denor stood out for me. Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Can I just add? I mean, on this
Go on,
thing, I mean, the reality is, right? I mean, it's not beat about the bush here. There's a group of people on social media at Millwall are only interested in one thing, and one thing only is to get Rowie out the door. He could go on and he could win the next 4 games, right? The first time we drop a point after that run, straight away it's back again. Oh, how long's he got? Row it out and whatever. They will never be satisfied, these people, until Rowett has gone.
But be careful what you wish for, as they say, Stan. Look at what Kerbersley. Look at Charlton. Well, they 6th in the Premier League when Kerbersley got the sack?
Absolutely. You see, this is what I'm saying. I mean, I've heard people turn around and say, oh, well, if we got rid of him, I mean, we could get Warnock in. I mean, give me a break, surely.
He's 105 now, isn't he?
Is that the limit of their ambition, Warnock?
He wants to go to Portsmouth. He's already said that. That's the only club he'll manage from there on.
Yeah. That's because it's near his home in Lou, isn't it? Is it not Lou? Is it Lou somewhere?
Well, he's on TalkSport saying that, so I'm assuming that's what he's aiming for.
But, as I say, I mean, that's the thing. So they're never. I tell you this: even if we manage to get promoted this season, imagine it. We managed to get promoted. He'd be the first manager to get us in the top flight since John Doherty, right? And I tell you what, within 48 hours of the kick-off next season, people will be on social media saying, "How long's Rowett got?" I'm telling you that now.
Agreed.
I think it's the world we now live in, isn't it?
Yeah,
this world of social media, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
No different.
Well, it is, but I mean, we get some of that. I'll get you. But what I'm saying is, at our place, people go overboard and then overdrive.
That's because you're close to it and emotionally attached to it. But it's honestly no different at a lot of football clubs.
Exactly, I agree with Pat. It's the same, but it's the world we live in. If you happen to be, reasonably content that your beloved club is in the top half of the Championship, which is historically a really nice place for us to be, then you're going to be patient with the manager and with the players. But what happens with social media is that once these people have stated their opinion, the most important thing in their minds is to be proved right. And they will ignore any factor which suggests that they've been wrong. And I'm afraid that it's the world we live in. I thought the thing about Wednesday night, if you were a Millwall fan, come Wednesday night, it's pouring with rain, there's traffic problems, you've just got beat 3-0 on the Saturday, right? We're in the bottom half of the table, we haven't scored many goals. The real Millwall fans wanted to go to that game.
Yep.
There was very little negativity anywhere in that ground on Wednesday night. The difference from Sunday was stark in that respect. So I say respect to everybody that's listening to this that went to that game on Wednesday. It was not the easiest thing. You went because you're a Millwall supporter, not someone who's interested in hearing their own opinion being proved right. Great result for Gary Rowett. Great result for the team.
Brilliant. And on that positive note, we will take a break there and listen to our sponsors, G&M Motors.
Hi, this is Jess Tuffield from G&M Motors. Operating from a modern and purpose-built facility in Milton Road, Gravesend, G&M Motors offers a complete range of new Honda cars and services. As well as new Hondas, we have an extensive range of used cars, including ex-Motability cars from a variety of manufacturers. Specialising in new Honda cars, G&M Motors has been retailing quality new and used vehicles to the people of Kent and South East London for over 4 decades. We have been a Honda dealership since 1972 and are the country's longest serving supplier of this renowned marque. Conveniently sited just 2 miles from the A2, 10 miles from the M25 and Dartford Crossing, visitors to our showroom are assured a warm welcome from our experienced and friendly staff. Our facilities include an on-site workshop capable of providing full vehicle servicing and repairs, as well as an extensive parts department offering genuine Honda parts and accessories. The expertise of our skilled mechanics is not limited to just Hondas, but extends to most makes and models of motor vehicles. Whatever your motoring needs, visit us at G&M Motors today. The newly extended hours of our G&M headquarters means that you can contact us from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Saturdays. To contact us, call us today on 01474 365 026.
Thank you, Jess. Debbie Julian's here. Don't forget to call Jess on 01474 813562. G&M Motors have been dear friends with the Julians family for over 4 decades now. From my dad Lenny to me, Debbie, Lions together.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me I have the No One Likes Us team of Stan, Patricia and Jeff. Many thanks to our sponsors, G&M Motors. Why not go along and see what they have on site? Our first guest today is very, very much a friend of the show. He's not a player, but his notoriety is growing amongst the Millwall faithful. He's been a Millwall supporter man and boy, because his dad was too. He's now written 6 books about the Lions, including A Natural High, Daydreams and Nightmares, and his new book, 30, Millwall's 3 Decades at the New Den. He says writing about Millwall is one of the most wonderful things to do. I'm sure you all know the man. Welcome to the show, Merv Payne. Hi, Merv.
Hello.
Hi, Merv.
Hello. Hiya. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Pat. Hi, Stan.
Right.
Cool. So, Merv,
Yes.
before I open you up to the panel, we have something in common, which we were talking about the other day, don't we?
Yes, we do, yeah.
And that is we both listen to Danny Baker's podcast, The Treehouse.
Yes, we do.
We do. And I know you
Yep.
contribute regularly because I always listen out for Merv's bits. How did that all start, mate? What made you suddenly start writing to Danny Baker?
I've always been a sort of admirer of his. My wife once accused me, she said, "Oh, you only like Baker because he's Millwall," but that's not actually the case. As a kid, I was an avid reader of the NME. I was a big music fan. And obviously Danny Baker in the early 80s, late 70s was a writer for them, and his sort of byline quite often caught my eye, and his stuff was always quite witty. Then he obviously showed up on the screens of the 6 o'clock show. I don't know if anyone remembers that in the 80s on a Friday night. That was a really sort of lively sort of program, and he was on there.
Janet Street Porter and
Janet Street Porter. It was Janet Street Porter that sort of gave him his break on telly, because I think she knew him at the NME, and it was only through the 6 o'clock show that sort of he started to sort of show that he was a Millwall supporter. But you know, he's a good broadcaster, and he does a lot of funny stuff. And I sort of got exchanging a few tweets with him over the years, and then he does this podcast after he stopped working on the radio, and I thought I'd give it a go, and it's really good. I mean, if anyone listens to his old breakfast show on 5 Live at a weekend, it's along the same sort of lines. It's very irreverent and you know, sort of quite left field and funny, and in sort of true Danny Baker fashion, it's the listeners that are actually the content of the show. And anyone who emails in with a funny story will get it read out. And you know, it's a nice way to pass 40-50 minutes on a Saturday morning and a Wednesday morning. Really, it's you know, and I don't really listen to enough podcasts, so that was one of the ones I started to sort of get involved in amongst others. And yeah, it's good. It's a good bit of fun, nice bit of sort of lightheartedness for the mornings.
Indeed. Over to you, Stan. You can ask your question
Yeah,
now, mate.
hi, Merv.
Hello, Stan.
Yeah, so as I understand that, all started with a poem about going to the old den with your dad, and then a conversation over a computer screen with a colleague. What
Yeah.
happened next, mate? It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, the story was when I used to be a regular on House of Fun back in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s. And I used to meet up with a few of them on there in Harry's Bar when I used to go down to Millwall with my dad. And so they sort of got to know him. And then when he passed away in 2007, I just sort of wrote a piece just about him and how I sort of attributed my sort of love of Millwall to him and how it all happened. It was just a quite common story, I think, of a dad taking his son to the football, as it happened to a lot of fans of different clubs, really. And I just put that up on the House of Fun a couple of days after he died, and just put it up there just to sort of let people know what had happened and about it, and it sort of unwittingly sort of went viral as viral as things went back in 2007, and that was it really. It sort of that sort of went around, and a few years later, I was working at a newspaper, and they got a chap in as a consultant to try and change the way the paper was going. That bloke happened to be a fella called James Brown, and he was founder of Loaded magazine. I don't know if you remember that in the 90s. It was a huge sort of phenomenon in magazines in the 90s. Yeah, and he was sat opposite me, and he's a big Leeds fan. I got chatting to him because he does a few of these sort of talking head pieces on these Sky programs like football's funniest moments, that sort of thing. They get him on, and I just got chatting to him as a fellow football fan. And he somehow knew about this piece I'd done about my dad, and at the time he was putting together an online magazine, and he asked if he could put that in as one of the first articles, which he did, and it sort of went even sort of more viral from there, really. And because so many people could relate to it, I was getting comments from people of all different football clubs, sort of from all over the country saying that's similar to my story, and obviously it applied to mothers and daughters and mothers and sons as well, and grandfathers and grandsons, that sort of thing. And he kept saying to me, like, you need to write a book about it. You should put it into a book. And I didn't really have the first idea of how to even, I was a writer at the time in my job, but just like small sort of features and pieces. I had a few attempts, and it didn't really work out, and I forgot about it until it's 2018 now. And I just decided, I actually by chance met with James again, and we had a sort of chat over a coffee. And he had just finished writing a book, and we just exchanged a few chats, and I just went and sat down and tried it again, and it just sort of, it happened really. I sort of tied it into the whole 87-88 promotion season, which sort of made it a bit more relevant and made it a bit easier to do. And then once I'd done that one, I just thought a few sort of friends and family would read it, and the response was quite a bit bigger than that. And it sort of snowballed from there, really. I've sort of got the bug. And I just find myself, when I've got some spare time, just researching and writing books about Millwall, because it's just a really nice thing to do.
Hi, Merv, it's Pat.
Hi, Pat.
So as we heard, you've written 6 books now on the Lions. Which has been your favourite period to write about?
Well, I think I was just doing a count. I think this latest one's actually my 7th now. And I've done a children's book as well, which is like a illustrated sort of rhyming history of the club. But I think it's quite easy to come up with my favourite period. I think it's obviously got to be the promotion season in '88 and the first season in the First Division. I think that was, that's by far the most sort of magical time, I think, for any Millwall supporter at that time. I did enjoy writing about the 1979 FA Youth Cup winning team, because that gave me a chance to speak to people like Phil Coleman and people like that who have so many stories, and it was such a different time for football and for that sort of for youth teams, that sort of thing, and it was such a good team. That was really interesting. But yeah, I mean that spell when we got promotion to the First Division, and that first season, the First Division, it was a real sort of pinch me sort of time. I was chatting to a friend who's a Brighton fan earlier, and he's obviously looking forward to their first European match. I did remind him that we'd done that, years ago
Yeah,
now.
been there, seen
Yeah,
that, done that.
yeah, it's boring. Yeah, but he's like a kid at Christmas, and he said, you can't understand how great it is to experience this after we were like bottom of the league and almost going out of the league, and and that was the thing for me when we got promoted in '88, to think about those really sort of dark days. When my dad first took me, and there was like 2,500-3,000 at the old den, and the place was half empty, and real sort of bad times. So it was just so nice to sort of relive that. Really, it's a really good excuse to go through all those great matches again. That's definitely my favourite period, I think, of writing.
Yeah, Merv, it's Jeff Burnige here. I have to say that I've got most of the books. I think I've got 5 of them, I think. And I really, really enjoy them. And I can only congratulate you. I think it's amazing to read them. I really evokes memories. It's strange for me because for some of them, I was actually living through that. From when I was on the board, and sometimes I think, I never looked at it that way. Yeah, that's interesting. Other times I think, no, it wasn't like that. It was like this. So they're really good to read. And if I ever decide that it would be appropriate to do my memoirs, as we've discussed, I will definitely do it with you. But I want to know, you mentioned earlier that there's now a 7th. I don't think I know about that. What's that? What's your latest book, and what's the next one? That's what I want to know.
The latest one is just to sort of mark the 30 years at the Den. I still can't bring myself to call it the new Den, but I just thought. I mean, I was sort of shocked when it sort of obviously occurred to me that it had been 30 years, because I can remember the whole thing about the old Super Den, about how, we always thought, everyone was very cynical about that. They always used to creep up every now and then, oh yeah, we're going to redevelop the Den, and we thought, nah, you won't do that. And then sort of at the end of the first season, the first division, when the stories got round that they were going to actually move, and it was quite, when we found out that actually was going to happen, it was quite a weird sort of time. And I think at the time, Millwall were only like a third team to actually move to a new stadium. I think Walsall and Scunthorpe had done a similar thing. So it was really quite sort of groundbreaking and ahead of its time. But for Millwall, because the old Den obviously was so legendary and so loved by the fans and so unique, it was such a big move. But to think that was 30 years ago is, it's literally a whole generation. So I thought, and obviously there was going to be the club were going to do stuff to mark it. But I thought it would be nice to look back over those 30 seasons and try and pick out a particular match from each one that I thought had some sort of significance, whether good or bad, and perhaps look back also over some of those seasons. And it was again, as is sort of typical with Millwall, it was quite a journey. Some of the highs and lows over those 30 years have been quite remarkable. So I just thought it'd be nice to put that down in a book, really.
And what's next?
Oh, I don't know. I've sort of, because I think I've mentioned this on the show every time I've been on, I'm always a massive fan of Jim Murray's Lines of the South. I mean, I thought as a club history, it was just fantastic. Just such a great book, and such a shame that it had to end when it did, which was at the start of the 87-88 season. And I think Jim he's now a whiskey connoisseur. He writes something called the Whiskey Bible. So the chances of him updating the Lines of the South, are just not going to happen. So I sort of took it upon myself to pick the story up, as it were. And I think with my last book, Daydreams and Nightmares, that took us up to 2005. So I'll probably pick the story up again, but it's all quite recent, I think. I enjoyed sort of, I like the idea of perhaps younger fans reading perhaps about the days, the First Division days and the early days of the new Den and that kind of thing. I think possibly I might pick the story up again from 2005, but there's also other seasons or other periods in the club's history I'd like to write about. I mean, the 84-85 season was obviously a very good one with George Graham's promotion team. It'd be nice to speak to some of those players who I know are sort of still knocking about now, and that would be nice to revisit. And I think we've got. I hope this is not. I'm sure this is not. This is okay to sort of mention, but ex-Millwall player Tommy Sampson, who was also a manager. I think we're doing something about his sort of time as in management. I think he was the last non-league manager to manage a team at the old Wembley. So that's on the horizon, which should be good. But I'm just more publishing that one rather than writing it. But yeah, so there's plenty more to do. Just not decided exactly what yet.
So back to the current team, Merv. Okay. The up and down start, but we're now 3 points better off as we chat than last season. Right. What are your thoughts so far? Yeah, I mean, and so what do you reckon, mate?
Well, yeah, it's been very up and down, hasn't it? I mean, we got off to a great start at Borough. Then we had a bit of a wobble against Bristol City and Norwich. But it's just, I mean, this division is one of the, it's a cliche, but it's one of the toughest there is, to play. And you've got teams coming down from the Premier League with, lots of money to spend. But I mean, yeah, it's just bizarre because at the moment, I think social media plays its part. It's doom and gloom 1 minute, and everything's great the next. Sunday we're all, in the doldrums, and now we're happy again. So it's just, I don't say we're better off by 3 points than we were at the same stage last season. But I mean, the only sort of time that counts is at the end, really. When the final table's there, and all I know is this season is the one season you can't afford to get relegated from the Championship because there's a new TV deal starting next year, and the Championship clubs are going to be a lot better off than the League One and League Two clubs. So from a financial point of view, as long as we stay up this season, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, I mean, my personal thing, I don't. I mean, I sound a bit arrogant when I say this, but I don't actually think that relegation is going to be an issue this season. And the reason I say that is because, the quality of the squad this season is better than it was last season. So I don't anticipate us getting relegated or even being in any relegation trouble in the long term, right?
No,
I mean that's my view.
Yeah,
but the other thing I was going to mention was you mentioned about the Championship and how tough it is, and I don't disagree with that. But you see, I think that with all the other leagues in Europe and their equivalent of the Championship, I mean, none of them get the viewing, get the attendance figures that we get.
No.
And in terms of the commitment, or not commitment's the wrong word, but with the way that the game's played and the excitement and whatever, I mean, I think sometimes people tend to forget. They keep rattling on about the Premier League all the time, and understandably so to an extent. But I mean, the Championship is a quality division, and each year it gets harder to stay in it. And each year it's, and because you get the gap, didn't you, go from the Championship to Division 1, that gets bigger each season.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what your take on that is, but,
Yeah, I agree as far as being relegation threat is concerned. I think our only threat is injuries, to be honest. I think we have rotten luck with injuries. I think if we lose key players to injury, then we might have a bit of a struggle. But yeah, I agree with the squad as well. And there's been quite a debate with this on social media about how good the squad is. I think it's a very good squad, a very strong squad. I think the only other thing open for debate is if it's perhaps being used or utilised in the most effective way, but by the manager. But that's a massive debate for another day, probably. But Yeah, I mean, before last night, without sort of getting too technical, because I actually, one of my pet hates is when football fans get too sort of technical about football and tactics and that sort of thing. But before last night, I think we'd scored only 2 goals from open play so far this season, and both of those involved Imaku, who I think is a really good, really exciting prospect. Obviously, he made Essie's goal at Middlesbrough and he scored the consolation at Norwich, and I do wonder why. A player like him, and I appreciate he's probably seen as a bit of a luxury player because of his, but he's pacey and you've got to be a bit more organised because teams are very good. But if you watch like the EFL highlights programme and you watch all the goals that are going in the Championship and divisions, so many come from pace and width and
absolutely, mate.
and
Absolutely.
Millwall have always had, all our good teams. You think about all our good teams; they've been really good, exciting, pacey, wide players. You think of people like Paul Ifill, players like that, and I just think people argue about Gary Rowett's tactics on social media a lot. I just think the one thing I'd like to see more of is just a bit more pace, a bit more width. And I think you saw from the second goal last night. I think Duncan Watmore brings us a bit of that. He's pretty nippy and he sort of gets forward and reminiscent of Jed Wallace. I think the way he tends to get forward quite quickly and he likes to take players on. I think we'd just like to see a bit more of that. That's what it is, really. I mean, people debate whether or not the manager should go or not, but I don't think it's.
Just one final thing before I go. I mean, all your books that you've got, or you've got that you've written so far. I mean, I've got every one of them. I mean, they are quality books, mate. No question about that. And what I also like in there is little bits of snippets of information in there on things. And I mean, I remember a couple of incidents, and then you sort of, if you filled in the gaps, if you like.
Yeah.
And because I thought, but this is interesting. So if I ever get the chance to sit down and talk to you,
I'd like that.
I would enjoy it because, they're quality books, mate. They're quality.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Cheers, Stan.
Hi, Merv. It's Pat.
Hi, Pat.
All right, you was talking about our present squad, and I agree with you. It's probably one of the strongest I've seen in the last few years. Definitely. Who do you think our standout signing was in the last transfer window?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I'm hoping it turns out to be Nesbitt, to be honest, because when you look at, you say about teams strengthening from last season. You look at Middlesbrough, who haven't won a match yet, and they've lost like their two top scorers. I think Akpom they sold to Ajax, and Archer was on loan from Villa, has gone back, and they've not been able to replace them. We've been able to add to our top scorer.
Sold to Ajax. That's a new one on me, actually. I didn't know
Akpom, Akpom went to Ajax right at the start of the season, I think it was, and only 12 million quid apparently, which is, you think, he scored 27 goals last year in the Championship. You think you'd get more, and they've not been able to replace them. We've kept our top scorer in Bradshaw, and our second top scorer in Fleming, and we've added to that with Nesbitt, which for me, hopefully, he's perhaps not yet. Got on the score sheet as much as you probably expect him to. But I think that to have added another good quality striker is a really good move. That was really impressed me. The others, I think the jury's out on the others at the moment. But Denori looks good. I think he was perhaps a bit prematurely cushioned the Bermondsey or the Deptford De Bruyne last night by the club's Twitter account or X account. So it's probably a bit premature for that. But yeah, he does look a good player. So he could turn out to be a good signing as well. But yeah, Nisbet, I've got really high hopes for.
Excellent.
Yeah, picking up on that, it's Jeff again. Up on that point about the strength of the squad. No Ollie Burke, no Callum Stiles, no Charlie Cresswell. So I think it was always going to be quite difficult to even match the strength of last season's squad. And I think we have. A bit worried about not signing a top-class central defender. Most people think we need someone that's a bit pacier than the ones we've got at the moment. And he doesn't seem keen to use Harding. But otherwise, what I would say is that forecasting what Millwall are going to do week by week is a mug's game. Going to the game on Wednesday night, people weren't sure whether we're going to play brilliantly and win easily or whether it's going to be a carry-on from Sunday. And you just don't quite know. But we are in the top half as we speak. We've got that win under our belt and people are scoring. It's Bradshaw's first goal of the season. That's good. Do you think we're now at the point where we're beginning to gel and we're going to go on from here, or do you think it'll take a little bit longer?
Yeah, I think it'll take a bit longer because you've got Longman who's come in, who looked really good last night, and Campbell. So it's a matter of of how we find sort of the best lineup really, or the best sort of system or whatever it is that they can all play in. But yeah, I mean, I think it will take a few more games. I think we're notoriously slow starters anyway. We tend not to get going until the sort of November, sort of October, November time. But yeah, I mean, I think our only problem is going to be injuries. If we can keep players fit, I think the main one there is Ryan Leonard, who I think if you get a full season out of Ryan Leonard, then he's a brilliant player at this level. I think we've still yet to see the best of him. But I know again he's a player that divides the fans. But I'm really glad they gave him a contract extension, and he looks really good in that sort of right-sided defensive role as well. And he's an exciting player. I was gutted for him that Cooper got in the way of his shot at Birmingham, because he deserved that goal when he lashed that one in at Birmingham. I was so gutted for him, because I know a few people who support Southend and know him from these days there, and they say he's a real entertaining player, and when fully fit, I think he's a great asset.
I think they've found his best position, you know.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
If we're going to play a back three, number one, he can carry the ball out and drive through into the midfield. He's got a little bit more pace than the others, the other three central defenders that we've had for a while. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a wonderful player. Great player. We get 46 games out of him, it will be amazing. But so you think it's going to take a little bit longer for us to gel? And
I think so. Yeah.
It may have something to do with the system of play, because we are playing differently. We're playing with two strikers and Fleming on Wednesday night behind two, whereas last season it was Bradshaw and Fleming getting into all the spaces around and just in behind Bradshaw. Very different when he's playing behind two. And the other factor is teams work people out. You know, everyone's aware of who we are. That's why I think the youngsters, Emakhu and Essie, have shown up well, because they're not so well known to our opponents. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, those two looked in pre-season. I know you can't tell too much from pre-season, but certainly like the second half of the Charlton game, Essie and Emakhu seem to have a real understanding together. They seem to have built up a bit of a partnership playing for the under-23s and whatever. And I think that's really key. And you saw it again at Borough, you know, with the goal. I can understand the manager being a bit wary of pushing them in too soon, but I think on Sunday, I think you saw a situation where I think he put Emakhu on with 20 minutes to go, almost as to say, right, go and change the game. And you know, Leeds were so strong it was a bit too big of an ask for him. But yeah, I mean, again, it's pace. I mean, defences hate playing against pace. They hate being dragged wide and that sort of thing. And Emakhu can do that, and Essie, I think, complements him really well. So I think that's a really good pairing for the future, and it's good to have such a strong squad, to have so many options, you know. And Emakhu's a great player to bring on when you're perhaps looking to, you know, sort of up the tempo of the game or something like that. And I know Gary Rowett says he likes to bring pace off the bench, as he calls it. So, you know, he's perfect for that. I really hope we see more of him.
Indeed. Merv, it's absolutely a pleasure to speak to you. That could have gone on for, I believe, a lot longer. But before you go, it's obviously the tradition to get a prediction. We're obviously up at West Brom at the Hawthorns this weekend. On Saturday, a quick prediction, please.
I just watched their goals against Watford, actually, and Jeb Wallace looks on form again, and you know, they look half decent side. But we tend to do quite well at the Hawthorns, so I'm gonna go for a draw. I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw. I know it's sitting on the fence a bit, but I think that'd be a good result if we go there and get a point, to be honest, because they're pretty decent.
No, can't disagree. Merv, it's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to getting you back on towards the end of the season. And brilliant. Thanks, Merv.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yes, Merv.
Good night, Merv.
Thanks. Bye-bye. See. Right.
We will take a break there and listen to our local non-league side, Fisher Athletic.
Hi, I'm Paul, a Millwall and Fisher FC supporter. There's always been strong links between our clubs, and as such, Fisher FC would like to remind Millwall season ticket holders and supporters club members that entry to watch Fisher is just a £5 if you show your card at the gate.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Stan, Patricia and Jeff. If you can't get to the Hawthorns on Saturday, but you need your football fix, why not get along to Fisher? Let's hear from the wonderful, wonderful Ellis Barr.
Hello, Ellis here, and I'm glad to be back talking about Millwall. I know many have watched my videos, so you will all know that I don't wear splints as much anymore. Thanks for your support along the way. It is now time to hear what all the Millwall teams are up to, and what is next for Gary and Rollett's Lions. Come on, Millwall!
Thanks, Ellis. It's a pleasure as always. We caught up with Paul Loading, Millwall Romans and Pride General Manager. Let's hear what Paul has to say.
Hi all, it's Paul Loading over at the Millwall Romans. Yeah, a bit of a disappointing day for Millwall on Sunday, losing 3-0 to Leeds. We actually played a friendly against Bosco FC. Bosco, they're a really good team. We played them a few weeks ago in a friendly. They knocked the ball around really well. Their possession is excellent and their movement is excellent. We played quite well against them a couple of weeks ago. This week we started off really well, defended really well. I say they're the sort of team that do play it around very well. I say the movement's good, and we managed to nick a few goals against them last time by attacking them on the counter. This time around we. I say defended quite well, apart from a sloppy mistake in the first half. We went into half time 1-0 with generally sort of happy how we'd performed, but also we were a bit aware that we weren't probably creating enough up front with Jay Lamonius out injured at the moment. We set up as a 4-5-1 to try and pack out of that midfield, which left our new striker Andy Chan a little bit isolated up there. Started in the second half, kicked off really well, and we started to play the ball around a little bit more and to create a few opportunities. And we went, after about 70 minutes, managed to score 1-1 to level up the score lines, and it remained like that for the rest of the game until pretty much a very controversial goal in the last 30 seconds. The ball came over to the right with Bosco flying down that side. The linesman flagged to say the ball had gone out of play. However, the referee decided to overrule this. The ball came in the centre with no Bosco players around. Another one of our new players, Alex, decided to try and clear the ball. It kicked it against manager Rob Barr, who was about a yard away from him. It bounced off Rob and flew over the keeper's head into the goal, literally within the last 30 seconds of the game. So a disappointing but also quite a comical second goal from Bosco. I think the positives from our side of play, we played quite well. We are missing a few players at the moment, due to some injury and absence, but I think that set us up really well for this weekend. This weekend we're hosting Leicester Wildcats in the GFSN Cup in the preliminary rounds. They are a good team, Leicester. They did reach, I think it was the quarterfinals or semi-finals last year. They're a very good, strong team. They will be good. We're kicking off at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Our Pride team are also in action on Sunday. They are travelling to the infamous Hackney Marshes to play against Soho Freedom. That's a 2 p.m. kickoff away, Hackney Marshes against Soho Freedom.
Thanks, Paul. He forgot to mention the prediction at the end of the conversation, but he's got us as a 1-0 win for the Lions up at the Hawthorns. And just a reminder that the GFSN Cup against Leicester is at 1 p.m. and it's being played at St Paul's Stadium, Salter Road, Rotherham on Sunday. Get along and support the Robans. Our Jeff filed a report for Maritime Radio also this weekend, following the Millwall Lionesses game to Dulwich Hamlet at the weekend.
This is Jeff Burnige reporting on Millwall Lionesses, and I have to report that the girls went down 2-0 to Dulwich Hamlet at Champion Hill yesterday. This was a disappointing day for manager Keith Bonus, but the issues of team selection remain a problem due to multiple injuries and some of unavailability. The match had its usual large crowd at Dulwich's home ground, but there were no Millwall fans there as it clashed, of course, with the men playing against Leeds United at the Den. The Lionesses started fairly well, but a misplaced back pass presented Hamlet with the first goal after 20 minutes, and this was a disaster, which was followed up with a second goal about 6 minutes later to make it 2-0. Key defenders Poppy Payne, away, and Sophie Chapman, illness, were missing, and young goalkeeper Darcy Guy was replaced by Chrissy Wiggins, who was returning to the club 2 years after leaving in 2021. The team will be studying a video of the match as usual before training at the Den, the indoor facility, on Tuesday. And in truth, there is quite a lot for the manager Keith Bonus and his coaching staff and the players to sort out before they face Fulham at Motspur Park on Sunday.
Thanks, Jeff. Always a pleasure to hear about the late Lionesses. Hopefully their fortunes can turn around soon. As mentioned last week, we'll be finding out how our Lions got on away from the Den. So we've got a little bit of updates on how they got on this week. On the weekend, Abdul Malik and Carl Smith both made appearances for Wealdstone. The former played the opening 73 minutes of the goalless draw at home to Altrincham, whilst Smith produced a man-of-the-match performance in his 88 minutes on the field. Abdul Malik had the chance to open his Wealdstone account but fired just wide of the post with an attempt. Elsewhere, Chinnacoli played the full game at Bromley as Bromley moved into the Vanarama playoff places, courtesy of a 3-0 victory over Oldham Athletic, whilst Alex Mitchell was in the Lincoln side, which drew 1-1 at home to Carlisle United in the Sky Bet League 2. Joe Wright was substitute goalkeeper in Salford City's 2-0 loss on Friday night defeat to Notts County, with Nana Boateng missing Woking's impressive 2-0 success away at Hartlepool United. This week, Abdul Malik and Carl Smith started for Wealdstone in the 3-1 loss away to Dorking Wanderers, with Abdul Malik coming off on the 86th minute and Carl Smith playing the full 90. Chinnacoli started for Bromley away to Dagenham and Redbridge, winning 1-0 away, keeping a clean sheet, and according to the admin of the Bromley's page, he had a fantastic game. Alex Mitchell played a full 90 minutes for Lincoln as they lost 2-0 to Derby in the EFL Pro Trophy. Nana Boateng finally wasn't in the squad at Woking as they drew 1-1 to Ebbsfleet. So, next up for the Lions are West Bromwich Albion. A decent point on the travels on Wednesday night away to Watford saw the Baggies onto 9 points after 7 games, which leaves them in 15th place, 1 point below the Lions. Ex-Lion Jed Wallace is now the captain and has bagged, pardon the pun, himself a few goals this season already. Last year, the Lions got a decent point up there. Would a point be good this time round, or do we need a proper win to get the season moving properly? Stan, I'll start with you so I can save my breath.
Yeah, well, I'm quite confident about Saturday, and I think that Millwall will go up there and they will win the game by the odd goal. And I take that will be 2-1.
Fair enough. Pat, I'll go to you.
Oh, right. You say Jed Wallace has bagged a few goals this season, has he really?
He's got 2.
He's got 2 now.
Yeah.
Okay, because he scored Wednesday night, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure he's got 2 this season.
He's really been out of form, and he's been getting a lot of stick off the West Brom fans. He's not been playing awfully well. Although last night, Wednesday night, I did hear he had a fairly decent game.
Hold on, I'll stand corrected. Just check the stats. It is only 1 goal, so you're right, Pat.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, he's not been playing very well at all, and I think he's our biggest threat. Hopefully, Wednesday was just a one-off, and he's still bad this coming Saturday. They're basically the same as us in the table, aren't they? Perhaps a point behind. I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a hard game up there. And I'll go with Merv Payne on this. I'll go 1-1.
Fair enough. Jeff?
Well, as I said earlier, it's not easy to predict any individual Millwall game at the moment. We have been inconsistent. I suppose that's only to be expected at the start of the season with really quite a new team. A lot of changes from last season. Looks like we'll be without Nisbet, doesn't it? He seemed to pick up an injury when he went to ground. Maybe he slid awkwardly. I don't quite know what happened there. Prediction 1-1.
Thanks, guys. I'm personally going to go a bit more comfortable. I'm going to go 2-0. I think we might have turned a corner, and this could be a right game at the right time away from home. Just hope we can keep going. We'll take a break there and listen to Bethany talking about Clean Feed.
Bethany Manxello here. Clean Feed by Ted Robinson.
Hold up. We're talking about an online recording platform.
Okay. Our Ted Robinson sponsors our online Clean Feed recording platform.
What were you thinking of?
Well, it sounded like a Parfum d'Homme Intense.
Really?
Behave. Just go online and see who else uses Clean Feed. It's a great bit of kit at a great price.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me, I have the No One Likes Us talking team of Stan, Patricia and Jeff. Our second guest this evening is a young man of 71 who has been supporting the Lions man and boy at the old and new dens. He watched the 59 games unbeaten and thoroughly enjoyed the promotion years bouncing from Division 4 up to Division 2. He watched Alex Stepney make his debut, and even that one game Alex played for Chelsea at Southampton from a tree outside the Dell. He slept in the road to get tickets to that infamous FA Cup third round game against Spurs, including Jimmy Greaves in that great Tottenham team. But one of his greatest memories was watching England beat Germany 4-2 to lift the World Cup as a 14-year-old boy. Welcome to the show, David Exley.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi, David. Hello, David.
Hiya.
David, before I pass you off to the rabble, you were there on Sunday, and of course,
yes,
you watched last night from afar. What was your overall impression of the last couple of games?
Well, the Leeds game in particular, I thought we had a great start to both halves of the game. We really did. I think, if I remember, we had 8 penalties in the first 8 minutes. Sorry, 8 corners in the first 8 minutes. It was ridiculous.
I wish we
were doing
did
so
have
well
in the first 8 minutes.
Well, that's what I seem to recall against the Leeds game. The Leeds, I'm talking about Leeds, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe I'm getting confused with the next match, but but they scored against the run of the play really twice, and it killed the game for us. It really did. I thought it was a start of a great performance, but I thought Norton Cuffy left us a bit exposed behind him. He was going forward very, very well, and we'd like to see him do that. But there was a huge gap behind him, and I'm not quite sure anyone was covering across there. But it was a shame. I mean, they're a good side, Leeds. I wasn't expecting us to go down 3-0, but we rose again, and we'll come again.
Indeed. Stan, you can start us off now.
Hello.
Yeah, all right, mate. Stan here. Now, since I read this script, right, and to see what you was going to be talking about. I mean, I've just been sitting here counting down the minutes, mate. I've got to tell you that, because you're talking about things that are very close to my heart, because I'm a year younger than you, and I can remember all of this as if it was yesterday. Right? Now, you mentioned, let me just say this before. Now, I don't know what your view on this is, but this is my view. We have a lot of people talk about the den and the atmosphere and how intimidating. I'm talking about the old den, how intimidating it was and all that sort of thing. And I don't disagree with any of that. Right. But for me, the most intimidating time I ever see it was Millwall was in the 60s in that unbeaten run, and shortly afterwards when we played Spurs. After that decade ended, it never quite got there again, except for one brief shining moment where we nearly got promoted a couple of years later. But once the 60s passed, for me it was intimidating, but it never matched the limit of this, you know, in the 60s, in the period that you're talking about. But
the ground was it was a great ground. It was a bit of a shock moving from the old Den to the World Cup final and standing there with sort of steps like almost a foot, 18 inches in depth compared to the crumbling old terraces at the Den. But the thing that was noticeably different was it was all standing all the way around, apart from that small little stand on even the forecourt was a standing area, wasn't it? Before they seated it with the orange seats.
Absolutely.
And I used to arrive there on a Saturday morning in the early 60s. You know, I've seen Pat Terry, the Townsends, Reg Davis, and Joey Broadfoot playing in a blue hoop shirt. You know, we had white shirts, white shorts, and a blue hoop. And we were watching the games there. Me and my brother used to go down and play on this. There was a crossing, a railway crossing down, a level crossing. We used to go and play swing on the gates down there before we went in the game. We used to go into the ground. Actually, that's where I go in to pay my threepence or ninepence or whatever it was to get in. As the two of us arrived, it asked one of us to jump over the turnstiles after we gave him the money. I could never understand why, but of course that's why we only ever had the faithful 15,000 or wherever it was that turned up there. There was probably 20,000 there, but 5,000 got over the turnstiles to climb in. But we'd collect mugs, the tea mugs, China mugs, at half time and take them back so we could get our fare home back to Wapping. We were on the other side of the river in the docks over there. And that little era there turned into an even greater era as we went on to have, you know, we went from Reg Davies in goal to Alex Stepney, who we talked about there, and Laurie Leslie after that. And you know, or that way around, we had a wonderful side, and you could come into the Den, go in at the Cold Blow Lane, then watch the first half if they were kicking up this way, and then we'd all just walk around all the way around past the big bank, the halfway line, and go and watch it at the other end of the ground and cheer them at that end as well. And there's always 20 or 30 up at the dog track there behind that floodlight, getting it for free as well, weren't they?
Hello, David. It's Pat here.
Hello, Pat.
I've been told, like me, you enjoyed the Posse Weller years.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but you do know that Brian King listens to this show regular every week, and he's going to be a bit disappointed that his name's not mentioned. So that's why I put that in.
I was getting to him.
Anyway, those two standouts, Posse and Weller. Who was your favourite and why?
Well, for me, it's got to be Keith Weller. I mean, yes, Posse stayed with us after Keith left and joined Chelsea, didn't he? I think from us as well.
Yeah, he did. Chelsea.
And then he went to Leicester after that, if I remember. Yeah. But Keith was an all-rounder. You know, Derek Posse was fast. Funny enough, he was better in the air than Keith Weller was, even though he's half the size of him. Keith Weller was a better all-round player than perhaps Derek was. He had a great turn of skill. He'd collect the ball and he'd turn left or right, and away he'd go and accelerate, and he'd score some great goals. And of course, we'll all remember Derek. Derek Posse was great in the air. He was better in the air than Keith Weller was. Mm-hmm. And we all remember the goal Derek scored against Brighton with Barry Bridges, who came in, of course, for Keith when he left. And that was a great goal. But Keith went on to have a great career with Chelsea and then on with Leeds. I think he even got an England cap along the way. Derek, I'm not quite sure what happened to him after he left Millwall. I don't think he had the career
that... Palace, didn't he? Malcolm Allen.
Went to with Palace?
Yeah, Malcolm Allen, yeah.
But did he play in the first division? I can't recall now. But I've only got eyes for Millwall. Once they leave us, it's over. But I did like Keith Well. In fact, I bumped into him once up the West End. He had a car accident. He had a white Cavalier, and he wanted to know. And I'm staring at him like mad, you know. And he wanted to know if I saw the accident, could I give him some help with the insurance? But I'm afraid I didn't see the accident. But yeah, I loved Keith Weller. I thought he was a fantastic player. And as I recall, we got them both from Spurs. I think we got Keith for 11 grand and 13.5 grand for... No, it's 25 grand. That's right. 13.5 grand for Keith Weller and 25 grand for Posse, if I remember. That's what we paid.
Yeah,
yeah, back in the day. But they were a great pairing, and I'm not quite sure. Yeah, Posse and Bridges were great afterwards, but Keith Weller, yeah, I think he was fantastic.
Excellent.
Jeff?
David, it's Jeff here. Nice to speak to you. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, I can remember yes, I'm of an age where I can remember these days that you talked about. Obviously, our own Debbie Julians, who's one of the panel sometimes, her dad, Len Julians, I'm sure you remember him from that 59 game unbeaten run, a wonderful player, and a candidate for Millwall's best player ever in my era. But Keith Weller, he would be my normal vote for the best player I saw in a Millwall shirt. So I agree with you there. But I'm interested to hear about you and the 1966 World Cup final.
Yes.
I know you went to that game as a 14-year-old. You're a lucky man. I was lucky enough to see all the 5 England games, including the semi-final, up to the final. But then we'd arranged months in advance a family holiday, which involved driving down through Europe to Italy. And I had to pass my ticket for the final to my Uncle Fred. What a result he had. And we happened to be on the top of some Alp in Switzerland with a 9-inch black and white television, which we got to see just in time to see Germany equalise. So then we didn't wait for extra time. We went on, and I found out the result when we got to Italy. You had a better experience than me. Tell us about how you ended up going to the World Cup final at Wembley.
Well, I tell you, this is how it was. I mean, back then, I had a newspaper round in the city of London before I went to school. I used to go up there on the number 15 bus from Wapping in the East End with my mum. She'd do the office cleaning. I'd go and pick up the newspapers, actually from the print works at the Express, the Times, the Observer, and Mirror, and I'd bring them back to this little newsagent in Fleet Street. He'd sort them all out, and then I'd go and deliver them around all the shops and the inns of Temple to the lawyers down there, and then go to school. And it included a Saturday, a quick early job on a Saturday. And I've been watching the World Cup on the telly in black and white, of course, watching it all through the France, Mexico, Uruguay was the opening game, and then of course we had Argentina in the quarter-final, Portugal in the semi-final, and I got my £3. I think it's all a £3, £2 on the Saturday morning, and I'd normally disappear. I'd normally go Saturday morning pictures, then I'd go pie and mash, and if Millwall at home, I'd get on the train at Wapping, go through Rotherham, Surrey Docks, New Cross Gate, and walk down and see Millwall play. So my mum was used to me disappearing. Dad died the year before in 1965. So, there I was 14 with £2 or £3 in my pocket. I thought I'd go up to Wembley and see if I could get a ticket off a tout. So I arrived there about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking around and there's all these sheepish looking blokes in like raincoats and hats with like fags on, looking around with scarves, looking a bit odd. I'm looking for a tout, so I go up to one of them. I said, "Look, how much you got a ticket for the game?" And he went, "Yeah." And he's looking around, and he showed me his ticket, and I could see. I said, "How much are they?" He said, 30 bob. Yeah, and I thought, 30 bob, and I've got £2 in my pocket, and I said, "No way, I'll come back later." And I walked away from him, and I thought, hang on a minute. This could be the only bloody ticket there all day long, or the prices might go up. So I went back to him. I said, "Look, I'll give you it," and he gave me 10 bob back. So now I've got 10 bob of the £2 paperboy money, and I thought, I'd look at the ticket, and it said zone. I think he said zone C, and I walked up. The place is still shut. It's raining. It wasn't sunny. It was raining at the start of the game. Waited for the gates to open. Walked in. Never been to Wembley before in my life. And I walked up the stairs, and the whole place just opened up in front of me, and I thought, "Oh my God, this isn't like the Den." So I've gone down, and where I was standing was actually above the players' entrance, right directly above it. There was a little landing below, and later on, some of the Grenadier Guards that were marching went back up there and stood on there. But I watched the whole ground fill up slowly in front of me to this great. And of course, my memory, you mentioned black and white TV. My memory of the game is in colour because I was there, Other people remember the World Cup final. I only remember it. I'm sitting there, funny enough, looking at black and white pictures in my den here. So yeah, the whole thing opened up in front of me. I was lucky enough to be standing against a barrier. As I say, the steps were about 18 inches high, a foot high, unlike the crumbling old den where we used to. And right at the end of this stanchion, you lean on, there was another block. So I'm standing on top of the block. It's on top of a foot high terrace anyway, and I'm head and shoulders above all the adults, surrounded by Germans as well. They were all there. So we're, during the game, they're going like, "Oh, your player is better than our player. Our player is useless." There was no animosity. We were all cheering our sides on, and I'm criticising Cohen. I don't think he's doing enough. And yes, but look at that one, Schultz. Blah blah blah. So yeah, and so that was the end where Jeff Hurst scored the first goal with a header, and that was the end where we went in off the bar, of course, and. Yeah, we went to extra time.
Weber got the equaliser in that end and all, didn't he?
Weber, that's it, Weber.
Yeah.
Or Weber, as they pronounce it over there.
I still say that was never a free kick.
Because Haller got the goal up the other end, didn't he? Yeah.
Up the other end, Helmut Haller. And did you know he kept and I didn't know this until fairly recently, that after the World Cup final, he had the ball. He kept the ball for years.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Well, this is it. I remember the ball.
First
the
had to ask for it back, didn't he?
I don't think there was any malice in it. He just had to have it, but he didn't give it back to Jeff Hurst years later. Unfortunately, he's died now, but no. I mean, I can watch that World Cup final from start to finish, and I know exactly when the moves took place. Even after all these years, right? You're watching the game and you can see their moves, and I know exactly when the goals are going to come. And and it's ingrained in my mind. I've never ever forgotten that day. And when they turned the greatest day in English history in football terms, that is undeniable. It certainly is.
Yeah, and we can, and to come back after that, to go on, to score the goals, the one in off the bar. And then Hurst's winner at the other end, virtually last kick of the game, and he thought he was going to wallop it into the stands. He didn't care. He wallops it into the back of the net, and past Hans Tilkowski, wasn't it? He was a goalie.
Yeah,
Hans Tilkowski. Yeah, but and again, 11 players, no substitutes, and extra time.
That's right. And on that note, we need to say goodbye, David, because it's quite a long show tonight, but we've got some fantastic memories in there. Thanks for coming on, David, and we will get back on later in the season. But before we go, can you give us a little prediction for Saturday's trip to the Hawthorns?
Well, I think we're on a par with each other. There's nothing between the two teams if you look at the table and the points and the goal differences. So I don't know. I think if we come away with 1-1, I'll be satisfied with that. I think the way things are going at the moment.
Seems quite a common score this evening. If you're listening back, you'll get that.
Everyone said it.
Everyone said it. But thank you, David, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure and lovely to speak with you. And good luck for the rest of the season. We get you on towards the end.
Great, lovely speaking to you all. Goodbye.
Bye, David.
Bye, David. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll take a break there and listen to Sands United.
We know that some men can struggle to talk about how they're feeling after the death of a baby. We hope that by building trust and a common bond, by playing together as a team, many more will be able to break their silence about baby loss and help others to do the same. Sands United FC has already saved the lives of men left feeling like they had no one to turn to in their grief. Are you a father who has lost a child? Talk to Sands United. They will help. Contact them on sufclondon@gmail.com. That's sufclondon@gmail.com. They will help.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Stan, Pat and Jeff. We're all looking forward to the next game, but in the meantime, here are a few matters of interest for Millwall fans.
Millwall Romans and Pride open training at St Paul's Stadium, Salter Road on Wednesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. There are 2 teams and the opportunity to wear the Millwall shirt. All are welcome. Just DM them on Facebook or X, formerly known as Twitter. Goodbye from me.
And Sands United are holding a celebrity charity match for Baby Loss Awareness Week 2023. The match is against Goals Gosh on Sunday, 15th of October. It's a 4 p.m. kickoff, but gates will open at 2:30. The venue is Averley FC, postcode RM154PX. Tickets are on sale now. Under 16s are £5, adults are £10. Ticket link in their bio on X/Twitter, Sands United London at London SUFC. Why not get yourself along? Take care. Bye.
Well, there are 2 great books available at the moment. A souvenir edition celebrating Millwall Football Club's 30 years at the Den, written by our earlier guest, Merv Payne. And also the John Berylson tribute book is also available online. Log on to curtisbooks.com to order your copy. Have a great weekend. Bye from me.
Next Friday, Eamon is back as the host with the team of Dawn, Ted and Dave. Don't forget you'll be able to listen to the No One Likes a Talking team bring reports from our games both home and away for both the Lions and Lionesses, and also updates on Millwall community matters too. On Maritime Radio, broadcasting on 96.5 FM. Additionally, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, social media sites and all popular podcast sites. That's it from me. Thanks, Stan.
Yeah, good night.
Thanks, Pat.
Good night.
And thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, good night from me as well. Keep your fingers crossed for the Hawthorns.
Indeed. Finally, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Good night from me.